I'll be buried in my grave before I become a slave, yeah. That is what I heard them say way back in the day. I'll be buried in my grave before I become a slave, yeah, yeah. But it seems like since that day, we have sorely changed. I'll be buried in my grave before I become a slave, yeah, yeah. That is what I heard them say way back in the day. I'll be buried in my grave before I become a slave, yeah, yeah. But it seems like since that day, we have sorely changed. Whoa. Hey, hey. Whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, 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 oh.
And now, live from beautiful Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, you're watching My Fellow Americans with your host, Spike Cohen.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to My Fellow Americans. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, welcome to the guys. Oh, thank you so much. Welcome to the. Thank you so much. Welcome to My Fellow Americans. I am literally Spike Cohen. I'm so excited to be doing this show and to have you join me. What a great thing for you, both individually and as a community, to be able to have this time to share with me, Spike Cohen. If you're watching the show and you want to share it with others, which you do, of course you want to share it with others, please share this on your timeline, make pages just to share these videos. Do whatever you can to get my video out there so we can have as many people as possible sharing this wonderful moment with you and me, Spike Cohen. Also be sure to comment with any questions that you have. Comment with your opinions, and I will let you know if you're right or wrong. Or even if you just want to say hi, feel free to comment. Please just comment. If you are watching this later, if this is not live and you are watching this on YouTube, I need you not just to like this specific video. I need you to press the subscribe button. I need you to press the next button afterwards that says that you want to get a notification every time a new video comes up. I want you to make sure that you then go to your notification settings, turn the volume all the way up, pick the absolute loudest ringtone that you have to make sure that you never miss. The last thing I want is for something to come from Muddied Waters Media, including me, Spike Cohen, and for you to miss that. That would be a terrible thing for both of us, and I don't want that to happen. So please do that. If you are watching this on listening to this on SoundCloud, there's a subscribe button. I'm not 100% sure how that works, but there's somewhere there that you can subscribe. I need you to avidly press whatever causes you to subscribe to our channel, and that way you don't miss anything. Please, I need to make sure that you're not missing any of this. It is for you more than me, honestly. As always, I want to thank Muddied Waters Media for this opportunity for me to be podcasting and to be hanging out with you guys tonight. I would like to thank Kroger for the delicious water that I drink on this and every episode of My Fellow Americans. Delicious Kroger water. Oh, that is good water. The music that I use, the intro and outro music that I use for this, and so far anyway, every episode of My Fellow Americans is by one of my good friends and one of my favorite musical artists, Joe Davi, Jodavi. I need you to check him out on Facebook. I need you to go to his SoundCloud. After you've gone to our SoundCloud, I want you to go to his SoundCloud, subscribe to him. Then I want you to go to Bandcamp, purchase all of his music. It's like 99 cents a song. Just go ahead and get it. You will be so happy that you did it. You're welcome in advance that you have gone and purchased Joe Davi's music. Please go and do that. As always, shout out to Tehran Turks' mom and him. So let's get started. My guest tonight is a media mogul. And I need you to understand that when I say mogul, I do so without even a modicum of hyperbole. He is the head of Muddied Waters Media. He is a co-host of the Muddied Waters of Freedom, and he is the host of the Writer's Block. He is also just incidentally, one of the most spectacular human beings on the planet, literally. Again, no hyperbole whatsoever. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me. Join me right now in welcoming to the show my good friend, Matt Wright. Matt, thank you so much for joining my fellow Americans. It's great to have you on.
Yeah, man, it's great to be on. That was the greatest introduction I've ever gotten, I believe.
Good. Well, it is not going to finish there. I have nothing but good things to say about you. So thank you again for coming on. I'm so happy to have you. You and Muhammad have been such a huge inspiration to me in podcasting. It's awesome you were able to join me. We actually have a lot of things in common. We both have very conservative fathers.
Yes.
We are both the crazy libertarians of the family. We are both recovering addicts.
Yes.
And we're both unsettlingly handsome.
That is actually probably the thing that we share in common the most.
Right.
No, probably the addict thing, and then it's the unsettling handsome.
That's what I'm thinking. I think that honestly that's probably the biggest thing is just how handsome we are. We're basically the same person, and I'm very, very glad to have a I think you're younger than me, so you would be my clone on the show with me. So thank you very much again.
I was gonna say I think I'm older than you, but I'll accept the fact that you think the other way.
How old are you? Or are you coy about your? Okay, fine. Okay, well I am 35. So
yeah, I got you beat.
Oh, do you really? Oh, see, you're so young looking. See, now I feel bad because I look all of 35. I have young eyes, and that's where it ends. I have the young eyes and an old man body, and so you got me beat on that, and so congratulations there. Speaking of libertarianism, since that's what the show is purportedly about.
I mean, that's what we say it's about. I'm going to pitch it right now on my new episode of the Writer's Block that's coming out tomorrow. The entire thing we talked about music.
Well, see, that's the thing. But from a libertarian perspective, is the subtext, right?
Right. I mean, we talked about classic rock a whole lot. It was me and Matt Delicio from Young Americans for Liberty, and we just talked about music for a half an hour.
So it was just two known libertarians talking about music the whole time.
Pretty much.
Perfect. See, that's good. I want to say, we were talking before the show that if I didn't have some show notes, I would essentially just talk about my dog the whole time. But honestly, there's probably a market for that where, libertarians talk about their pets. So that may be, again, that and possibly, I don't know if you know what ASMR is. Where the people talk real creepy into the thing.
Where you make sounds and people fall asleep.
Yeah, fall asleep or they get the tingles. So it's either going to be anarchist pet hour or anarchist ASMR. I'm feeling out where I think it's going to go with that.
Either way, as long as they're listening to us on SoundCloud or on any podcast app, it'll just play through all of our podcasts after they fall asleep. So we'd still get the stats.
Oh, see, I didn't think of that. I lull them to sleep, and then they continue listening to videos and tracks, whether they even know it or not. Well, then I'm definitely doing that. I'll probably start with the pets. No. I will start with the ASMR, and then I'll transition to pets once they're asleep, and then they'll be listening to your show and everything else. That is such a good idea.
My show will definitely keep them asleep.
Yeah, no, stay asleep. Like it's the Muddied Waters bedtime hour. That's perfect. So I'm just, what's that?
Muddied Waters of Freedom.
Nights. Yes, the Muddied Nights of Freedom. So I'm curious, was there a moment that you would say like that you had an aha moment that you became a libertarian, or was it just sort of like you evolved from some other political ideology over time and, over time found, realized you were libertarian? Was there an exact moment or just sort of a kind of a progression?
I I grew up, I was a conservative, Republican, hardcore.
Right.
If I went in to vote, it was R. And then one day, because the schooling I grew up in Virginia, and the schooling in Virginia is not good. So I didn't know that there were other options for anything. I knew that there were Republicans, and I knew that there were Democrats. And I knew that Republicans were conservative and the Democrats were liberal.
And hated America.
What I knew. And one day I was selling real estate at the time in Northern Virginia. And in one of my very busy days, I was surfing the web, and I was like, political spectrum test, let me take that. And it came up and it had me like right at the pinnacle of libertarian. And I was working with my dad at the time, and I said, Dad, what's a libertarian? And he goes, oh, it's like a Republican, but they want legal weed.
Nice.
and I laughed and went, oh, because this test says that I'm a libertarian. And he said, oh, that makes sense, actually. And I said, oh, okay.
And you're like, you were okay with legal weed, I presume.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with legal everything.
Yeah, so I was like, because that was sort of similar to me. Like, I didn't take the political spectrum test until I was fairly well. Maybe I was more of a conservatarian than a full on minarchist libertarian. But because we got to keep out the Mexicans. But that's what I thought. But not any specific, not the Mexicans I liked, but as an abstract.
Right. All of the Mexicans that probably aren't actually from Mexico.
Yeah, the Mexicans, including the Brazilian ones,
Right.
but and Indians or whatever. But so by the time I was actually taking spectrum tests, I had a concept of what I was. But yeah, when I first heard libertarianism, it was like, yeah, they like drugs to be legal and prostitution to be illegal and everything to be legal, but they're kind of like Republicans, and I'm like, I think I might be a libertarian. Like, I think that sounds good. Like I still get to be a Republican, but
if they want drugs to be legal and they want prostitution to be legal, they don't sound like Republicans right there.
Well, and that was the thing. So like, obviously over time, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm a Republican. But at the time, the person saying it to me was saying it in a negative way. Like, well, they're like us, but they want prostitution to be legal. I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible. What do you mean? So yeah, so I mean, I while quietly in my mind, I'm like, I think I'm a libertarian now. So that's fine. So it sounds like we have a similar thing there. Curious. So what was your idea? What got you motivated to start Muddied Waters? Like where did that come from?
Okay, so the story of how Muddied Waters starts is actually kind of funny. Muhammad and I were Facebook friends, and we had never met, but we had, we knew that we both lived in this area, and we knew that we both hung out at kava bars, but we had never once like crossed paths at any of these kava bars. And then one day, this guy, this Bernie bro that I knew, his name is Chuck. He showed up at low tide, where I think I was working there at the time. I may not have been. It may have been before I started working there. And he was like, I had met him a couple of times, and he comes over and he's like, hey, Matt, how you doing? I'm like, good, Chuck. How are you? Just hoping he's not going to talk to me about, any...
Bernie.
Just hoping he's not going to talk to me about any, socialist propaganda. And he goes, oh, you must know the guy that I'm here with today. And I was like, no, who's that? And he brings over this, I'm going to blow you up ISIS looking dude.
All due respect, of course.
Right. Of course, all due respect. And immediately I looked at him and I was like, why do I know this guy?
Oh,
and
yeah.
He's like, Muhammad, you know Matt Wright, right? And I was like, wait, are you Muhammad Shaker? And he said, are you Matt Wright? And I said, yeah. Oh, man, it's so good to finally meet you.
That's funny. And so
started hanging out at low tide a little bit more, and then one day he's like, hey, do you want to do a podcast with me? Everybody thinks I should do one. And I said, no, I don't. Absolutely not. And he goes, are you sure? And I said, yeah. And he goes, okay. And then a couple weeks later he goes, I really think we need to do a podcast. And I was like, no. And then he left and he went to Alabama for a while, and then he came back and he was like, I really think that we need to do a podcast. And I was like, no, I still don't want to do a podcast. That does not sound like a fun time to me. And then he asked me one more time after that, and I don't know what happened on that day, but I'm like, all right, fine.
Okay, fine, yeah.
Let's do it. And I was just kind of like, yeah, this probably isn't going to do anything. We're not going to go anywhere.
Right.
And we'll do like 2 or 3 episodes, and then they'll just kind of
just go off to the wayside. Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever. And so we ran a contest. We ran a contest, and we were like, hey, what should we call our podcast? And one of our friends, Greg Bowen, came up with the Muddied Waters of Freedom. And
I think I remember that because Muhammad was asking, who he I think both of you had posted it. What do you, what should the name of our podcast be? And most people were coming up with Al Qaeda references, which is always fun. But yeah, it's like ISIS, libertarian ISIS or whatever. So that's like funny.
Libertarians walk into a kava bar, the Matt and Mo political hour, but Bro Hamid with Matt or something, like just whatever. And then somebody says like the Muddied Waters of Freedom. And then it was just kind of like, I like that one. And then it was kind of like, I was like, I'm not gonna actually give you a choice on this. We're just gonna do.
We're just gonna, executive decision.
You, that's what you like.
It's like, you want me on this show or not? This is what we're calling it. That's
right,
fun.
No matter what, this is what's being called.
Now, who introduced who to kava, or were you both already into kava before you met?
We were both into kava before we met.
Cool. And I still don't know a lot about it. I know that a lot of people are using it to get off and stay off of opiates, and that there's been some.
So yeah, you're doing the thing. It's kava and kratom, 2 totally separate.
Oh, okay. See, I'm doing the thing. I'm doing
the thing. So kava, which by the way, thank you to Low Tide Kava Bar for the kava that I drink on this and every show.
Bula.
Good on you for remembering. Nice job. So kava comes from the root of the kava plant, which is found in the South Pacific Islands.
Okay.
And it is known for its relaxing properties. One of the things that we say is like coffee gives you that little edge to boost you a little bit. Kava takes you down like 1 or 2.
Oh, okay. So it's like sort of the opposite of what coffee does.
Right. So kava is just root and water mixed up. It tastes like you think a potato liquefied would taste. And that's on a good day. But it does have very relaxing properties. And, being a former addict and somebody who can't be around alcohol at all,
right?
Something that I can drink. And it's like I left, as you know, I left and I took like the last 5 days off, and I was in Chicago and Philly. Mm-hmm. No kava. I didn't have any kava while I was gone, and I had like no withdrawals, no real desire to like go seek it out, try to find it.
Right.
There's no physical dependency to it.
Cool. Whereas if you were drinking alcohol as often as you drank kava, that would be a problem to go out of town and not have it for a week. It'd be like, I think I need some alcohol. So then kratom but that's also a herbal thing, right?
Yeah, kratom comes from the leaf of the kratom tree.
Okay.
And that's found in like Indonesia, and that's like Southeast Asia.
Oh, okay.
Thailand, Indonesia, like that whole area.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it's brewed just like a tea. You take the leaf, you dry it out, you brew it just like a tea. You take the tea leaves out and strain it, and you drink it. And then depending on the region that it comes from and the type of tree that there is, which there's like 3 main ones. God, I haven't done this in so long. Red, green, and white are the 3 main ones. The whites are back you up really, really hard and wake you up. The reds are going to relax you. The greens are, and this is where it depends on region, because some of the regions give you like a euphoric energy, and then others give you a relaxing euphoria. So it just kind of depends on what it is you are looking for. Okay. And those are the ones that people are using to help them curb their opiate dependencies.
And I know there's been some in some states, and then I guess at one point there was some threat from the federal government that they were going to regulate or even make it as a controlled substance so that you couldn't get it. And I guess at least as of yet, no one has been successful in doing that. So they've been able to keep it, deregulated or at least legal. Yeah,
well, so the DEA did an emergency scheduling on it, and they did a Schedule 1 back in 2015.
Okay.
And that caused huge amounts of problems in people in the kratom community. And we went up to DC, we fought, we wrote letters, we did complete grassroots campaign,
right,
talking to, every senator, every congressman. Like, I was on the phone constantly back then. The DEA ended up reversing their scheduling, which was the first time in history they had ever done it.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a first, right? Like, because people were saying, unless something changes, this is how they do every substance. They do the scheduling, and then it's illegal, and that's the end of that. And there's never actually been a reversal, so that was pretty powerful that they were able to do that. Yeah,
first time ever. Like, just to be a part of the government going, okay, we were wrong. I was like, yes.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. Here's my attempt to segue. Speaking of herbal substances, I think that was pretty good. We have our first comment question from my friend Tova Schreiber, and she says, "Hi Spike, I have a question for you and your guest." She says, "Do you think that libertarians and conservatives should attempt to work together on certain ideas, or does that simply pander to the notion that libertarians are conservatives who smoke pot? Also," and this one is a good one for you, I think you'll have a lot of insight on this, "can anything be done to promote libertarian thought among our people, the Hebrews?"
Okay. I was like, I don't know who our people are.
Our people.
Well, yeah, of course.
The white people. No, so I think I will probably tackle the Hebrew question for some reason.
I was going to say my grandmother on my dad's side claims that she's Jewish. Don't know how true that is. But so that means that nothing was passed down to me. I don't know how that works exactly, but apparently that means nothing for me. But she would probably have more insight on that than me.
So I'll call your grandmother after this. Okay. So the first part, do you think that libertarians and conservatives should work together, or does that pander to the notion that libertarians are just conservatives who smoke weed? And she actually wrote that, I think, before we said. Before, because she said I predicted Matt's comment. So she actually, Jewish powers. She predicted where we were going, how quickly we would segue into weed in this episode. So what are your thoughts on that?
So yes, I think that libertarians and Republicans should work together on certain issues, just like I think libertarians and Democrats should work together on certain.
Right.
I don't think that working together with either of the parties on these issues is a way of conceding anything, really. Rand Paul, who is libertarian, like, he's not a libertarian, but he's libertarian leaning. And when he's doing his work on criminal justice reform, he often is working with the Democrats.
Right.
Justin Amash, who Karl Rove called the most dangerous man in Congress, making me like him so much more. Justin Amash will often side with the Democrats on things, even if it's not for the same reasons.
Right.
And he will continuously fight on what side he thinks is right. And if the libertarians think that the Democrats are doing something that's constitutionally good and doesn't hinder anybody's personal liberties, and they want to work with them, I have zero problem with that. Just like if the Republicans are doing the same, I'm totally okay with that. It's just neither side seems to be doing that anymore.
Yeah, they tend to work together without libertarians. They're like, you know what, this bipartisanship thing is fun, but it's more fun when we're screwing lots of people, and we can build a much bigger coalition around screwing people.
We can come up with these really great plans, but then we'll just add in all this stuff that hinders the freedoms and liberties of everybody. But it'll be under the disguise of this other plan. Right.
Yeah, and it'll be bipartisan, which is apparently important. So you were go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, because it matters to be bipartisan.
Yeah, when people say that,
if you're screwing the nation, it just means you're getting screwed from both sides.
That's the thing. People will be like, this was passed with 80% of Congress, and I'm like, the higher the number of politicians you can get to agree on something, especially at the federal level, the more likely it is to end up like actually harming you possibly on a daily basis. Like that's not good. Like, I mean, look at the Patriot Act. It passed, overwhelmingly, and look at that. So
took away all of our Fourth Amendments, just like in a blink of an eye, they were gone.
Yeah, exactly. So you're not just a libertarian. you were actually the vice chair of it was the Pinellas County Libertarian Party, right?
I was the vice chair of the Pinellas County Libertarian Party for a little while.
For a little while. And that's in Florida for those who don't know.
It's a Clearwater area for those of you who aren't familiar.
Okay. And so you actually were famous for a minute about, that you were kind of saying, the Libertarian Party needs to not be happy about the alt-right. Like, we need to be rejecting the same way we would reject, and we're going to talk about this later, the same way we would reject, socialists and communists. We need to be rejecting, if we're going to be taken seriously as a party, and if we're going to stay consistent, we need to reject, alt-right identitarian type people. And so that was actually, I think, the first time I had heard of you was when because you had written something about the person who shall not be named, who was a bit of an interloper in the and he didn't win the primary anyway, right? Like, he didn't get nominated.
He lost the primary to a guy named Paul Stanton.
Okay.
Who wasn't any better of a candidate on his own, but he at least wasn't an alt-right.
He wasn't a soft Nazi. Yes, he didn't eat animals and all that. So yeah. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because you were a part of you were actually in leadership with the Libertarian Party, and this sort of speaks to what we were just talking about. There's this debate between people that say the only way libertarianism is ever going to happen as a thing at an electoral level is if we have our party and we grow our party. Even if we're not winning elections, we're at least have our own thing. We're influencing the conversation, and eventually we can have wins, and we might even have some wins at smaller levels. So we need to really focus on the Libertarian Party, even if it means not getting electoral victories. Now, there are other people who say, no, we should focus on the Republican Liberty Caucus, and because we agree with Republicans, let's say 60 or 65% of the time, or 55 or whatever. We agree with them just a little bit more than we do with Democrats, and they actually win elections, and they can influence. We can possibly influence things better, even if we may have to sacrifice some of our purity or our principles or whatever. Initially, we can get Rand Paul's and Justin Amash's and people like that elected. Trying to remember the other guy's name in Kentucky. Thomas Massey. We can get these type of people elected. And again, I call Rand Paul, I call him Ron Paul Light. But I'll respect him. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Like, do you think if you had to pick one or the other, which do you think is a better path to get there?
So, so there's two different schools of thought on this, and I see both of them. I think that, yes, if you can continue to build the Libertarian Party and then work at getting people elected on the city levels,
right?
Get them into the city councils, get them in as mayors, get them in dog catchers, get them into everything that you possibly can, and just grow the party from there. That would be great, because then you would eventually, these people would start making names for themselves, and then they would move up to higher levels in state governments, state houses, state senates, or whatever your particular state has.
Right.
And then after that, they could then run for Congress, and they would eventually win. And I think that's a great plan.
Right.
On the other side of it, of the only, you need to be on a team that can win. I see that side as well, and that's because libertarian leadership, for the most part, I'm not going to single out anybody next to our work, but it's that a lot of the leadership in the Libertarian Party doesn't actually seem like it wants to win.
It's a secondary concern, yeah.
It's
if that, yeah.
They're trying to spread their message, and I understand that,
right.
But at the same time, if you want change to be made, you have to be able to get people elected. And if you're what I call stealing time, and I totally stole that from somebody else, and I'm certain he knows exactly who that is if he watches the show, but if you're stealing time from the people who are working the grassroots campaigning, because that's all libertarianism is. There's no money to pay people to work on campaigns. There's no money to call. There's just zero money. All of the campaigns I worked on, it was volunteer. I did it all for free.
Right.
So these people have to be really dedicated. And when you're going out, and let's just say, hypothetically, there's a vice chair of the Libertarian Party who goes around hypothetically, who goes around and says that all people in the military are murderers. Now, anytime that you go to a door that and it's somebody who is very politically in tune with what's going on, and they say, you're a libertarian. It's like, yeah. And it's like, what do you think about your vice chair saying that all people who join the military are murderers?
Right.
Now you have to try to explain this without turning this person off. And all while trying to sell a candidate. So it just makes everything so much longer and harder and just more difficult.
If that were to happen hypothetically.
Right. If that were to happen hypothetically. and it would make things just way too difficult. So instead, I see the working for the Republicans with groups such as the RLC, in the Liberty Caucus, who I've done work for. Because I mean, right now I'm not registered Republican or Libertarian. I'm not no party affiliate, so I can work with whoever I want. And so I've done work with the RLC, helping them out, getting people elected. I'm actually working for a guy right now who's not RLC endorsed, so I won't say his name, but he is paying me. So
he's
So in all fairness, I'll go walk neighborhoods for you all the time.
He's not a libertarian per se, but he is paying me. And so that's a powerful, that sent me a powerful message to my wallet. Yeah. Is he at least a conservative?
Yeah, he's conservative.
Okay. All right.
The only thing I really disagree with him on is his state pension. His state pensions.
It's Florida.
Because he's a former firefighter and he really supports the teachers union, and he wants state pensions to continually feed these unions, and I'm not a huge fan of that idea.
Well, nobody's perfect. I mean,
right.
Look,
and other than that, he and we agree on a whole lot. And what I really respected about him is in the flyers that I hand out. Because so this is my entire script for this guy. And I'm going to change his name because I don't know if he wants me talking about him.
On an anarchist podcast.
Right. I go, I knock on the door, somebody answers. I'm like, hey, I'm out here campaigning for my friend Spike Cohen. Have you heard of Spike? And they say yes, because they send out 1,000 mailers a week.
Right.
And they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, oh great. Well, Spike wants to know if when he gets elected to state senate, if there's anything that he can do for you. And then people give me all the crazy answers.
Right.
We want speed bumps on this road. We want you to legalize it. We want you. That's all the woman said. And I was like, got you. I know what you
specifically it. Yeah.
What are your opinions on big sugar and the algae buildup here in Florida? Which, if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it.
I heard something about it, something with the runoff, and that it's been building up and it's being blamed on certain industries. I guess the sugar industry, that it's run off from that, and it's made the ocean black or something like that.
Right. Yeah, that's what they're saying. But the real problem is the fact that we have these really old. Okay, now the candidate I'm working for referred to them as dikes, and normally I would just call it a dam, but I'm not sure if there's a difference. But we have these really old dikes that every time you open them, they have to be emptied more regularly than some of the newer ones, and that is what's causing the serious issue with the runoff.
Right.
Some of the older infrastructure, which of course that means that the state has to pay for it, which I'm not a fan of. But so I go through all that, and I listen to their crazy desires. And after I've finished listening to their crazy desires, I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to make a note of that. And if you have any other questions, right here is Spike's cell phone number. You can give him a call and ask him yourself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would never give you my cell phone.
Right. No, I had to trick your cell phone number out of you.
Who, me?
I had to ask you to call me one day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because I'm kind of protective of my cell phone number. Yeah, if I were running for office, I promise that there will be a landline in another state. We'll have someone there 11 to 4
Yeah.
to take your call.
And I tested it. I called him, and he answered.
He
I was
answered.
Matt was, Matt
Seemed
Wright.
like a
I'm
nice
supposed to be
guy.
walking for you, but I just want to make sure this was really your cell phone before I told people that. And he was like, no, that's my cell phone.
That's funny.
Okay, great.
Wow.
And after that, I was like, all right, at least he's willing to talk to everybody.
So he's willing to talk to everyone.
Yeah.
He is at least a conservative for the most part. And he's paying you.
Yeah.
So that
the
all
paying
yeah.
me is the big part.
The paying you is the big part. So for those who are watching, just to give you kind of a concept, if you haven't watched my show or Matt's show, first of all, shame on you. And actually, I'm not going to shame you. This is a great first step. Thank you for joining us.
You get the best of both of us.
Is that you get the best of both worlds. This is the best of Matt and Spike. So I am an anarchist or anarcho-capitalist, which means I don't want any government. Matt is more of a minarchist / constitutionalist. And so that basically means that he wants a very minimal government whose only role, and I'll let you correct me if I'm wrong, but whose only role is to protect our rights and property and, protect us from, murderers and stuff like that. Basic government. You don't want the government to protect us from murderers?
I mean, I want to be protected from murderers, but I believe that I have a better chance of doing that myself.
I agree. So we're both pro-murder, basically.
Right.
We like murder. But so you want a very minimal government that basically just does minimal government stuff.
Right. I'm a huge fan of the federal government protecting our borders, and that's pretty much where that ends. And then I think that pretty much everything else needs to be left to the localities and with a minimal state government,
or even just the individual.
The individual, yeah. I mean, everything I think comes down to the individual.
Right. So we actually, and this is, I don't want to argue with you because you're my friend, but this is where we have, that's the thing. Like I eventually want to have on this show, once I'm a little more comfortable with what I'm doing, people that I just argue with, but it's not going to be my friends. It's going to be people that I don't really know, and I just scream at them. So that's when it's going to get really good. That's when you're going to get the ratings. It's Spike screaming at people at 8:30 at night.
I'm really looking forward to those shows.
Oh, it's going to be amazing because I'm actually as happy-go-lucky as I am, I can scream. And this thing, the gains on this thing, and my plosives are being protected by this, so I can get really plosive-y and it'll still sound good. So I think everyone's going to look forward to that in between ASMR. Yeah. So I mean, we
lull them to sleep with the ASMR.
Screaming in the
this man.
First episode, yeah, okay, it was great. The government hates you, but we're gonna get through this together. And then the next episode, like, how dare you, filthy communist? So our disagreement there is on whether the Constitution is actually a document to protect our freedoms or not. But that's
right.
really.
I think I read you posted something once, and I know that you stole it from somebody. I just don't know who.
I'm sure.
But I'm gonna write down these rules on this napkin. Do you pay any attention to it?
Oh yeah, no. I saw Lou Sander. He was my first first guest on my show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he has this picture, and it's a napkin. And it's it's a brown napkin, so it's the same color as the Constitution, which I don't know if he knew that or if that was just a special touch that only I knew. But anyway, and it says I am in charge of you, and you have to give me all your money because it says so on this here napkin. And the whole idea is that the Constitution is essentially something that people wrote on that says we get to do this. What gives it any more moral authority than that napkin? And the short answer is none, but the authority comes from the reality of power, which is that there are millions of people that are willing to fight to defend it and have taken pledges to defend it, as opposed to when I put my napkin out there wasn't a lot of good feedback on it. People mostly reacted it. And I still the napkin says I rule over everyone, but whatever. It's actually not my napkin. I took the napkin from Lusander. I have liberated you from that terrible tyrant, Lusander. And now I am the holder of the napkin. So anyway. So yeah.
In all fairness, if you were the all supreme leader, I'd actually be okay with it.
Things would be great if I were the supreme leader.
I would be like, well, no, Spike's in charge.
Be a very brief Pinochet period on steroids. Very brief, like a couple weeks. Because we're in the age of the internet now. Like it's a lot faster. Things can happen a lot faster now. But
Free market helicopter rides.
yeah, free market helicopters and 3D printed helicopters. And after that period,
Good for one good ride, and that's it.
that's it. Just one. It's just one way helicopters and balsa-wood helicopters. And so you don't even have to throw them, and the helicopter just goes down. And with drone technology, I'm actually scaring myself how much this might work. Balsa-wood helicopter removal. But I'm gonna have to write that down in the show notes. But after that brief period, it would be amazing. People would love it. Anyway, so that won't ever happen. But yeah. So so other question. Where was the other question she had?
What you want to know about your people?
My people. Man, I don't know. So I'm gonna end up doing a episode on this, and I'm not gonna get into it very heavily. But so Jewish communists. How do I discuss this? So
Not a lot of them.
no, it's very rare, a Jewish communist.
Yeah,
So
Jewish communist, not really a term
you
you
ever
hear.
seen one? No, not really. So communism, Marxism is essentially the communalism of the kibbutz with God removed. So the problem with the concept of how do I say this? I'm going to come up with a better way to say this later. But the short answer is that I don't know. And Jews are very communitarian, which is fine if it's voluntary. And I think that there's a lot more I want to say without sounding wide-eyed and anti-Semitic. So I'm gonna work on my messaging there because it's not the best right now. And that's not what my show is about. So I'm gonna work on that messaging. But so I wanted to ask you, talk about a couple of things that are happening right now. First of all, and you had touched on this in an article you just wrote, there was this huge Catholic priest pedophile scandal in Pennsylvania, and
301 priests.
301 priests. Over 1,000 victims so far, and they said there's definitely more that they'll never know of because they were too scared to tell anyone, or there's no evidence or anything like that. But 1,000 that they can fairly well confirm. It's been going on since 1947. It's gone on for decades. It was covered up by the church at pretty much every level, from the church all the way up to the diocese or whatever they're called. There were girls that were impregnated, and
I'm not Catholic either, so it's very difficult. I'm like,
yeah, I'm not 100% on the structure.
I think that's a Catholic word. Sounds Catholic-y.
Catholic-y, the diocese. I actually didn't read that anywhere. I just threw it in because it sounded Catholic-y. But very Catholic friendly, by the way. This show, we love the Catholics. If you're watching, we're very diocese-y here.
Love all religions.
We're very religion friendly. But there were girls that were impregnated. There were abortions that were done by priests. Marriages that were faked.
That seems so hypocritical to me.
Oh, it was. Yeah, well, no, I know, because they're like the most pro-life group out there, and but not if it's a little kid that they screwed, but that those specific priests, by the way, not the entire Catholic Church. We're not going there. I'm not calling all Jews communists, and I'm not calling all Catholics pedophiles. We're not doing this today. Not today.
That's good, because it's all about the individual.
It is about the individual. We're going to talk about that in like 24 seconds. But I was reading details on this, and it was just too sordid for me. Like I couldn't even read it anymore. It was so disgusting what went on, how long it went on, and how many people it went through. It boggles my mind that A, that could happen on such a level, and B, that many people were willing to cover it up. There have, of course, been other Catholic priest pedophile scandals and other religious pedophile scandals as well. It's a weird position to put someone in, that they're in a position of power over kids and kind of by themselves with them, and it will attract. I think a lot of times it attracts child predators to that type of profession. But the fact that so many people covered it up was just disgusting.
Yeah. So years ago, I was living with a very strange person. He was a Scientologist, so that would kind of give you an idea. Okay,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
pretty religion friendly up until Scientology. That one, I'm like, okay, look, no.
Enough already, like enough, yeah.
Right, I get it. Sure, Xenu. But I was living with a Scientologist, and the Catholic Church at the time was going through another series of child molestation issues,
Right.
and because it's a recurring theme with them from time to time, and and we were talking about it, and he was saying that he was like, yeah, it makes sense because the Catholic priests, their entire life, they're going after the good and the pure and
Right.
wholesome, and they are also abstaining. And so in their obsession of trying to find the good and the pure and the wholesome while abstaining, they sort of channel those energies to these children, and then it comes out as what happens.
Right.
And that actually made a lot of sense to me. Much later, I realized that the guy that I was talking to also had those same urges.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So he knew. So that really, I mean, I hate to put it that way, but it kind of underscores what he was saying, that is what's happening.
Right. So that's why I think that's why he had a better grasp on it than a lot of other people. And it's also what ended up getting him kicked out of the Scientologists is, I mean, say what you will about Scientology. They are very, very strict when it comes to pedophilia. They're really
If
strict.
nothing else.
If nothing else. I mean, they're also really strict if you're gay or take meds or anything like that.
They're strict about a lot of things, but including pedophilia.
Including pedophilia, which, you have to kind of give them a little bit of credit.
I will give them that credit. Scientologists are not fans of pedophilia, and I'm happy to hear that.
I mean, David Miscavige, he may be locking children into boxes and things like that, but at least he's not touching them.
He's not touching.
So, I mean, he's got that. He's got that.
Their purity is intact in the box.
I live so close to Clearwater.
I was going to say, you're in huge Scientology territory, right?
Yeah, I'm actually a little afraid that I'm going to get a knock.
So I just want to clarify, mostly for Matt, because I'm not scared of anything. But I don't know that Matt is either, but I just want to say on Matt's behalf, we are very friendly to all religions and faiths and belief systems except communism, and to a lesser extent socialism. I'm very happy that the Scientologists are against pedophilia, and we will agree to disagree on the box thing. Matt is Matt is neutral on that whole thing. So I just want to point that out.
I mean, I'm not afraid to say that I'm against the box thing because I don't think David Miscavige is coming to my door.
He's not pro box.
And even if he did, he'd be like, "Oh, well, it's this crazy libertarian dude that does podcasts." Yeah, I'm fine.
They might give us some. So I was watching the show with Leah Remini, and where she does the libertarian stuff, and not libertarian, the Scientology stuff.
I was like, what?
She's libertarian. No, but they help her ratings because they put out these insane responses to what she says. So that might work in our favor. That they go, Spike Cohen and Matt Wright they were addicts and they're horrible people and they're terrible, and then people will be like, these guys sound awesome. We might get Leah Remini on the show.
Shows up at my door, all 5'5" of him, and he's like, "Hey, don't talk about Scientology." Yeah. I assume he talks like an elf when they don't mess with his voice. Hey, don't talk about Scientology, and I'll be like, "Man, you were Top Gun. What happened?"
I don't get it. I don't get it. The more I read about it, the more. Anyway, Florida. We like all belief systems, so we are tolerant of the various belief systems. But you wrote an awesome column earlier today, or article, article thing. You wrote a post. You posted a column article, an article that was in a column form, and in it you were talking about this Catholic priest pedophile scandal, but you were talking about how important it is to judge people as individuals. And not as groups, except for communists. Communists aren't actually people, so you can judge them. They're
lower than wild hogs, as we discussed.
Yes, lower than the wild hogs, because the wild hogs at least take care of their children, and they also have tusks, which is awesome. So I think that was what we settled on, right? That was what made wild hogs better than communists.
That was it. That was they take care of their families, and they have tusks.
Yeah, because they're both violent squatters. But And
They don't believe in personal property rights. One
right,
bit.
exactly. No personal. This is mine. I'm hungry. And they are hungry. So that's a key there.
Are you
But
talking about the hogs or the communists?
all of them, like that's their. I was talking about common threads. Common threads is they're all hungry. But you talked about how that you shouldn't judge people in groups, and you talked about the hypocrisy of people that will say they'll hear of a Muslim that blows himself up or does whatever. Like this thing that's happening in New Mexico. There's this crazy guy that he's a Muslim, and he was training kids to do school shootings or something like that. And
I thought that was a girl. Is that a guy?
I thought it was a guy.
And I've been traveling a lot, and I kind of glanced at the article, and I didn't actually read it, but I know what you're referring to. I thought it was a girl, though.
Okay, so we won't gender the person because I'm not 100% sure. We will not assume genders. We don't assume genders here ever.
I do on my show all the time.
Oh, do you?
Oh yeah, big time. I always assume genders.
Okay, well, on this show specifically, I rarely assume genders. I totally got sidetracked there. Oh, so I'm just like, have I ever assumed anyone's gender? 7 episodes in, I might have assumed someone's gender. It's like
I called that guy he.
There was that one guy. I said, "Thank you, sir." Anyway, and I called him a guy just now. But anyway, so that when a Muslim does something, people are like, "See, Muslims are terrorists," ignoring the fact that the vast majority of Muslims never do anything like that. And that something like this, the pedophile scandal, people are like, Catholics are, rapists or pedophiles or whatever. And when the vast majority of Catholics and are outraged by this, including, I assume, the majority of people, maybe not in Pennsylvania, but in various other dioceses around the country, are against this. And so I wanted you to talk a little bit about that because your column was perfect, and really I couldn't have changed a single thing about it.
Yeah, so I found out about the Catholic scandal a little late this time. Normally I'm on top of it when the Catholics do something dumb. But this time I found out about it a little late because I saw a post by Muhammad Shaker. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's weird. Why is he bringing up the Catholics right now? And then I Googled and I went, oh, that makes sense now. I get it. 301 predator priests. So I was reading some of the comments on it, and people were like, oh, the Catholics are rapists and pedophiles, blah, blah, blah. And he actually, granted, okay, I stole the idea from him. But he was like, people have been saying that Muslims are, because obviously Muhammad Shaker is a Muslim. Obviously. And he's like, people say that Muslims are pedophiles all the time because somewhere in some religious text, I don't know the Quran at all, it says that no, not Allah, Muhammad.
Different Muhammad, by the way.
Different Muhammad, not
the original Muhammad.
Right, the original, the one you're not supposed to draw pictures of. You can draw pictures of Muhammad from Muddied Waters of Freedom. That's fine, but don't draw pictures of the original one. Apparently.
Please don't. Not on this show.
Yeah, I was really hoping that when I tweeted out that Muhammad is very ticklish, that would get me some backlash. But then, and that just it did not gain the steam I was hoping for. But Muhammad said that
probably just as well.
Probably. Yeah. Now I'm gonna have people of the Islamic faith and David Miscavige.
And the Scientologists are like, we all hate him. Good enemies to have. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
But somewhere in some religious text, apparently it says that Muhammad took a wife that was very young. So obviously that means that all Muslims are pedophiles.
Right.
No, that's not what that means. One, it's a religious text. I don't know how true it can be. It was written 5,000-6,000 years ago. I don't know when it was written. I'm not religious. I'm like agnostic as hell.
About 1,400 years ago, I think, something like that.
Okay.
Long ago.
Long time ago. Long before any of us here were alive. Even longer than Methuselah lived. For those of you who know who that is.
Nice religious reference there.
Thank you. So I read that and I was just kind of like, man, this is actually kind of dumb. And then when I was like reading up on it, I said something about I was hanging out with my dad and my brother-in-law, which is a really strange dichotomy, because my dad, as we said earlier, very conservative. My
Right.
brother-in-law, not. He's
Another Bernie bro, or
he is he is real close to being not a human. So I mean, he's teetering, but he owns his own business, so I don't think he'll ever go fully
non-human.
right.
Transhumanism.
Non-human, because he owns his own business and he likes getting paid.
Very human traits, by the way.
Very human traits. So they were there, and we were just like, man, this is crazy. I can't believe it. And I was in Philadelphia, so I'm in Pennsylvania. And he was like, yeah, that was actually here. And I was like, wait, what? And I read further, and I went, oh, look at that. 3 words later, Pennsylvania. And so we started talking about it. And my dad, who blames all Muslims for the actions of the Fiat.
Right.
He does that. He openly admits that he does that. He has zero problem saying it. Was saying the Catholic Church has really become a victim of these people who are doing these things.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's weird, because
Wait a minute, yeah.
3 nights ago you were saying it's on the Muslims to police their own and get rid of these people in their own way.
Right.
The Catholic Church are victims because these people are shining a bad light on their faith. It's weird. And then that's where I came up with the idea for the article, where it's not that all Catholics are pedophiles and rapists, and it's not that all Muslims are pedophiles and terrorists, or that, all atheists want to burn down churches.
Right.
Or all agnostics want to leave people alone. It's that each individual person has the way that they see the world and how they view the world.
Right.
And you have to judge the individual instead of judging the group that they subscribe to.
I agree 100%. Like I said, I read it and I'm like, this is perfect. And then literally, like, in the back of my head, I'm like, but yeah, with communists. And you're like, and you ended it with, but not communists. I'm like, this was the best article ever.
I put that in. I put that in literally after I wrote the first paragraph.
So right off the bat, you were like, but not communists. Like,
right at the very beginning, I said, except communists. I'm not going to say we're going to judge these on the per person. No, if you're a communist,
communist. Well, first of all, they don't want to be judged as individuals. So they came, they gave up their humanity. In my defense. So 2 things I want to talk about specifically with pedophilia, because this is becoming a very pedophilia heavy show for some reason. Negative, we don't like it. So specifically with the Prophet Muhammad, not Muhammad Shaker, but how the Prophet Muhammad, I think her name was Aisha, he married her, I think, at 9, and then consummated when she was pretty much after puberty, like 12, 13, something like that.
13, 14. So.
Yeah, something like that. So, but he married her at 9. So I'm not going to say that that's a good thing. What I am going to say is this. That is what people did back then. So if you look at, in my, I don't know if anyone knows this yet, but I'm Jewish. And in the Jewish faith.
What?
Yeah, I know. I don't talk about it a lot. There's no Jewish theme with this show at all. But the,
Kava Nagila,
but yeah. Oh my gosh, I could start playing Jewish songs to going in. That's even better.
I'm pretty sure those are on what's it called? Where you can just use them for free.
What's that? Like royalty free. I wonder how many Jews are doing royalty free stuff. Anyway, so
Nagila, I think, falls under. It's like, God bless America. Like, anybody can just use it.
That's a good point. So that's definitely more Jewy direction we're going to go. So in Judaism, when I turned 13, we had a bar mitzvah, which meant that I was a man.
Right.
And girls, I believe at 12 have a bat mitzvah, which means they became a woman. Now that's largely ceremonial. It is nothing legal is happening there. You aren't legally a woman or a man. But it's just part of a birthright as being a Jew. That used to mean you were a man and a woman, and they got married, and they were usually having kids, and there was plural marriage. And there was men having multiple wives and multiple kids, and it was a function of survival. Infant mortality was considerably higher than it is now. Famine was higher than it is now. Anything that could disease was higher than it is now. People didn't live as long as they do now. So where now we can afford the luxury of deciding whether to have kids or not, and there isn't any concern about our species or our culture or our nation or ethnicity dying out, at least not initially. Back then, in the Bronze Age, that was for thousands of years. That was the reality of life, that if you didn't have as many kids as you possibly could have, things were going to go poorly for you. And so the girls were having kids as soon as they could, and the guys, because a guy can get, a woman can get pregnant, once, 1.5 times a year or whatever, a guy can impregnate a lot of women. So he was impregnating as many as he could. So again, not condoning it. Definitely in our society now, it's not acceptable, and we would consider it pedophilia, or at least hebophilia, or whatever the difference is there. But
right, yeah, I think one is
when they're adolescents, and one is when they're like little kids or whatever.
Yeah, one is like almost legal, the other is like not legal.
Right. They're both terrible. But we're against both. All the philias we're against. But
barely legal, totally fine.
Barely legal, it's legal. Like, yeah. I mean, it's legal. Yeah. So we'll not ever have an episode on that. But the barely legal episode.
Porn episode.
Yeah, exactly. Like. Yeah, so we're not going to do that. But so putting that in perspective, that was how things were back then. So I don't hold that against, a Muslim today, the fact that someone was living in the standard of what was then. We can definitely put it in perspective. We can definitely say, and I don't give everyone a break. It's like people will say, oh, it was okay that Thomas Jefferson had slaves and raped them, and he was a man of his times. Like, okay, he still raped slaves. Like, you'd still have to be held accountable. But Thomas Jefferson didn't rape slaves for survival, as far as I can tell. Muhammad, that whole concept of having.
Okay, I don't think anybody on our shows has seen this, but I got a new tattoo, and I got Thomas Jefferson.
But the wholesome Thomas Jefferson, not the
whole, yeah, of course,
the
wholesome
slave rapist Thomas Jefferson.
And like as soon as you started saying that, I was like, should I hide my arm? And I was like, no, I'm going full in.
You did it, right? He's a historical figure.
He's a historical figure.
We here at Muddied Waters of Freedom, by the way, the Muddied Waters Media, we are against any kind of rape or ownership of people.
Yes.
So. Yeah. So that's what I have to say about that. The other thing I have to say about the whole priest pedophilia thing, and this isn't specific to Catholicism, but I think that there's something to be said about the idea of taking grown men and saying you're never going to have sex again. Now, here you're going to be alone with a bunch of kids. And it's not, first of all, it doesn't excuse doing anything to them. I think that you're asking for some trouble, and I think that, again, you're attracting potential predators to that lifestyle, knowing that they're going to be, it's not going to be weird that they don't have a wife. It's not going to be weird that they don't have a girlfriend. And it's not going to be weird for everyone to hand their children to this person and say, I trust you, go with 100%. God, Timmy, and then go home and poor Timmy. So I think there's something to be said.
Timmy always gets the short end of the deal.
Timmy is screwed. I don't think I've ever.
Timmy always gets screwed over, but little Johnny is like the little badass.
Oh, Johnny is living the life. Johnny would never do that. Johnny is Zoroastrian. They don't do that. But yeah. So I don't think that this speaks about Catholicism or Catholics. I think that specific idea of, I don't think it's natural for a man to remain celibate, and I think that when you put specifically a man, I don't think it's natural for anyone to be celibate. I think a lot of women, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think a man's sex drive, I think you're just asking for trouble. And again, I think more importantly, you are encouraging already existing pedophiles to be attracted to that. Like, oh wow, I can go into this, and then they end up, possibly working their way up, and now they're protecting someone that's also doing it. So, I mean, I think that they're asking for trouble. And so, in typical libertarian fashion, I say let the priests have sex, and I I'm sure my Jewish opinion on that will go very far.
Yes, so my agnostic opinion on it, but so the way that I see it is that the Old Testament is a book of rules that was meant to help us procreate or survive, I guess would be a better way.
Right.
You know, like, do you eat seafood? Do you eat seafood? Do you eat pork?
I don't anymore. I always did, but when I was diagnosed with MS, I went to this crazy diet, and I'm actually kosher for the first time in my life.
Okay, so since like not eating seafood, not eating pork,
shellfish. So I can have fish. I can't have shellfish.
Yeah. So not eating shellfish, not eating pork. I think that those rules were put in there because they didn't want, even though, you know, we all know bacon and pork chops taste delicious. And I think that shrimp does. It's been a long time since I've had it. So I'm allergic.
Shrimp is so good.
Is it?
Oh, it's so good.
I'm like deadly allergic to it. So but I think that these rules were put into place because they didn't want people to die. Like,
right.
I have shrimp, and they were like, "Oh no, don't eat this stuff. It's the law. It's God's law. Don't eat it." And it's because they didn't want people to die. And I think it's the same reason that they didn't want people to be gay, because you can't procreate.
Yeah, you're not having children if you're gay. Yeah.
So they put in all of these rules, and the only one, even though I don't believe it's in the Bible anywhere, the only one in there is don't have sex if you're a priest.
I don't. I'm not sure. So
aren't these the people you want procreating? And like, these are the most pious people,
right?
Ones like spreading their seed and sending new followers, the land, God, or whatever, into the world.
So my understanding. Because so the original apostles, because they say that the Catholic Church is the church founded by Christ's apostles, is their belief.
Or Paul. That was Paul.
But they, as far as I know, did not take vows of celibacy. Some of them were married. Jesus wasn't, but he also was able to die and come back to earth. So I think, you know.
So I'm going to like get on so the Dan Brown, Da Vinci Code thing,
right?
Which was a complete ripoff of another book called In the Name of the Rose.
Oh, where it's actually Mary Magdalene or whatever,
right?
Turned around and they're cuddling or whatever.
Right. And it's, well, in the Name of the Rose is it's a nonfiction book based on a bunch of different stuff, and they put a bunch of historical documents, and they put together, and they're like, look, this is evidence that this girl exists today, and she is a direct lineage of Jesus. And the book is actually really convincing. After I read the Dan Brown book, I was like, how true is this? And I kind of got in that conspiracy theory circle, and like just went down that drain. And it's got some really good points in it. You would be shunned if you were a Jewish guy not married by the time you were 32, especially back then. Today,
right? Like we were just talking about, right?
So you're hanging out with 12 dudes, and you're 32 years old, not married. You're going to be shunned by the entire community. They wouldn't take you. So is it possible? Yeah, it is possible. And to think that a man and a woman would never have sex, not going to happen. Especially a married man and a woman back then. Not going to happen. I see all the logic behind it. I'm not going to say definitely Jesus and Mary hooked up and had a baby named Sarah, but that's the rumor.
Okay. So regardless of that, whether that's, it's one of those we have no way of knowing because it was several thousand years ago, or 2,000 years ago, yeah, or 1970, 60, anyway. Actually no, because it's 2018 now, so it's like 1908. Man, I'm getting old. So there's like a verse in the Bible that says something along the lines of, and I'm gonna butcher this, but basically if a marriage or if a woman or whatever, if a relationship is going to get in your way of doing the ministry, then to shun it and to, give yourself to the ministry or something like that. And so they use that as justification that, you shouldn't have sex if you're in the clergy. And it's like, Okay, well, that's not what they did, though. But anyway, so all that to say, I think that's that. So
I think all of the apostles at one point were married or have had children.
that was my understanding. Is that was like, yeah. So they were. Look at that super. Is this you that wrote this, or is this Muhammad that wrote this?
Wrote what?
A comment as the Muddied Waters Freedom. Look at that super special microphone. You're legit.
Oh, that had to be Muhammad.
That would be Muhammad. Is he talking about? I assume he's talking about me.
He's got to be talking about you. He's seen these.
Okay. Well, thank you, Muhammad, because I feel legit finally having like some real equipment and not just using my phone, my Samsung thing.
Muhammad Shaker is watching with you. So yeah, that's him.
Good. Well, Muhammad, you're next on this show, by the way. I'm coming for you. So I would be remiss in this week to have an episode where we don't discuss, as I called it to you, DogGate. Backstory there, I tell Matt we're going to talk about DogGate, and he goes, oh, okay, good. What's that? And then, I don't know, 4 minutes later, he writes and goes, I'm having a hard time Googling DogGate. Do you have any other?
That was real difficult to Google.
Because it was a bunch of dog gates, right? Like doggy gates.
So, okay, I did DogGate, and of course it came up with a bunch of dog gates. And then I did DogGate political.
Nothing.
No, it came up with something.
Oh.
And I was wondering why we were going to talk about this. It made zero sense to me. But there was this guy in the UK earlier
I'm Googling
year,
this now, DogGate.
and he was running for, I don't know, chancellor, I don't know, whatever they got over there. He was running for something, and there was this picture of them out on a street, and he's got his dog sitting there, and the dog looks like it's jumping all happy. But the dog had been photoshopped in, and somebody had discovered it and like posted the original photo, and then the one with the dog, and he's like, why is he photoshopping his dog in? And it became known as DogGate in England.
Oh, see, that'd be so much more fun than what we're about to talk about.
And I was reading up on this, and I was like, this can't be what he's talking about. This is from May.
In the UK. Like, this is clearly a big thing to talk about right now. So obviously for those who are nowhere near anything TV, probably not watching this either because you don't have an internet connection. So it turns out, whether you know this, that President Donald Trump referred to Omarosa as that dog in a tweet. He said, she's a lying, low-life scumbag, but also called her a dog, so there's a lot of things to unpack there. First of all, if you're referring to a female human being and you call her a dog, then you're essentially saying she's a female dog. And there's some a little bit of potential subtext there. I could see Trump just calling someone a dog and not even meaning that, but there's some just because I could see him.
There's that underhanded context there.
Yeah, I'm not sure how good he is on subtext because he seems to be like, if he wants to call someone something, he just does. So I
does not care. He's just going to go out and he's going to say it, and it's not going to matter.
Right. That's what. So I'm, if only because of just the fact that he'll say anything, I'm willing to give him somewhat of the benefit of the doubt. But there's definitely that subtext potentially there. There's also the fact that you're referring to a black person as a dog, and there's a lot of weight there, especially with how how certain things he's said and done in the past that has shown some lack of sensitivity there. But it gets even more fun because he calls her a dog. She apparently has secret recordings of him where he may have said even worse things. He and his campaign are suing her for violating a non-disclosure act. Turns out that non-disclosure act might actually violate the law because he's a public official. I don't know about you, but this to me seems like the best season of The Apprentice yet.
Oh, yeah. By far, this is the greatest season of The Apprentice ever.
I don't know who's going to win. I think it's Ivanka, but that's if they had Vegas odds.
She's an actual competitor on the show. She's going to win.
She's going to win. She has to win, right? Like, I mean, she'll win before him.
Her popularity numbers are trending way up in comparison to everybody else in this season.
Yeah. So the safe money is on Ivanka. Or Gary Busey. It could be a surprise winner, dark horse winner there. I guess so you and I are a little bit different on this, on whether what if anything there is a proper role for government. My belief is that the proper role for government. Your belief is that it is to protect our property rights and like you said, secure our border. And just very basic, common defense if needed, not permanent perpetual war, but common defense if needed, border defense if needed, very minimal government. My belief is that the proper role of government is in the toilet. But all that aside, I as an anarchist have learned to just enjoy the entertainment value behind all of this, in between the horrible violations of our natural rights that routinely occurred before him and with him and after him. I've learned to just like embrace it as like an episode of Game of Thrones where the characters can actually hurt me. How do you hear these types of things? Where do you come from on something like that? You hear that the president called someone a dog and that there's all this art. Like, where do you come from on hearing something like that?
Okay, so on him calling somebody a dog, like, okay, it's not the craziest thing he's ever said.
It's close.
I was like, I mean, his nicknames that he comes up with for people are some of my favorite parts about his presidency. Right. Lion Ted.
Lying Ted Cruz, yeah.
Lion Ted Cruz. Little Marco. Little Marco's a good one. Because everything's big on Trump, apparently.
Yeah.
As he likes to say.
Huge hands.
Just huge hands. What's he call Hillary?
Crooked Hillary.
Crooked Hillary. And Omarosa, he's been calling her Wacky Omarosa.
Wacky Omarosa? Okay. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, no, that's the trending is hashtag Wacky O. I had to Google that earlier.
Nice.
About what that meant.
Once you knew what DogGate was, you did some research.
I just delved right in. But so I was reading up on it a little bit after I finally was able to, and I wasn't getting pictures of British people and their dogs that weren't really there. And okay, what she did is, I'm pretty certain, espionage. I think it's considered spying.
That's what I was wondering. I'm like, she's actually the president, right?
She recorded something without anybody's knowledge in the Situation Room. Pretty certain that's espionage.
Most anarchist aid ever.
Right. And it's like, okay, that's definitely not allowed. Like,
that's what I was thinking.
People aren't calling her out on that even a little bit. They're like, oh no, that's fine. And I'm like, whatever. Like, and I don't really care that she did that.
Right.
The fact that
she did that.
But she did that.
She did do that.
And I'm like, you're not okay. Well, let's just breeze past that whole espionage thing. And then Trump is saying, oh yeah, I've never used those words. And she's like, I've got it on tape. And I'm like, but do you just release it and say, see, he said it? And
I honestly don't think she has it because, or she's waiting till her book release to do it or something. I don't think she has it because I think we'd already hear it if she had.
But when he called her a dog, like, because he was hitting her so hard.
Yeah.
He was calling her unintelligent and dumb, stupid, wacky,
unhinged, and yeah,
crazy. Like, he was just hitting her hard.
Right.
When he called her a dog, the way that I read it, because his tweet was the first thing that came up.
Right.
And I typed in dog Omarosa. Which is just a weird thing to Google.
This is the best timeline, right?
I know. There are things that I Google that immediately I'm like, oh no, I need to add in some more stuff because God, I don't clear search history.
I didn't want manga.
But so when I read it, I thought he was going like Ben Franklin, kind of calling somebody a dog. Like,
very statesman-like, in other words.
Qui cum cannabis, concumbit cum. Oh God, what's that? Polycabus surgent, I think is what that is. Which is, if you lie down with dogs, you get up with fleas. And
you were just speaking Latin.
I was.
Oh, thank God! I thought you were seizing or something. What the hell is happening? Okay,
No.
all right, good. I thought you were doing one of those like where you get the migraine auras and like you aren't talking right.
yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That was Latin. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
I actually convinced a girl that I was psychic because of my very limited Latin knowledge, by the way. Fun story, I'll have to tell you one.
Hocus pocus.
But yeah, so that when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, he's just saying that she is the dog that you're going to get the fleas from. Like she's bringing in the dirt. She's bringing in like all that. Like that's how I read it. And then I got to the news articles.
Right.
And all of them were like, some of them I was banging my head against the wall because I was like, oh my God, you're so stupid.
Right.
And then others of them I got, and there was one for Fox News, which actually surprised me because it said Trump called Omarosa a dog, and this literally needs to stop or something like that.
That is not okay. Was it? So it was like a Tumblr contributor to. It is the current year.
I was like, whoa, what's going on here? I'm reading this article right now. And the guy, the person who wrote it, I don't know if it was a guy or girl, the person who wrote the article was saying that they're like, Omarosa did something that could be considered espionage. And I was like, well, duh.
Right.
Way to point out that obvious thing, which then I read other articles and I was like, oh, nobody cares. But they're like, she did this. And then, yeah, she violated the Non-Disclosure Act, which may or may not be a legal non-disclosure act.
Right. Yeah.
Other campaigns use them when they are running.
Right.
So I would think that it is legal if she signed it during the campaign. I don't really know.
I don't know, but I am pretty sure she also probably broke the law. It sounds like because technically that stuff is top secret. My understanding, anyway. Like there is some unclassified stuff, but
you're not supposed to put out.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not even allowed to bring a cell phone in there in case it's tapped into not your knowledge.
So then I guess in this way, Omarosa is my new hero.
Right.
She's like the Edward Snowden of the Trump era. That's just really...
Yeah, except she's not trying to help out our basic human rights.
No. She's trying to sell books, which, again, raw capitalism. The more I talk about it, the more I love this woman. And this is someone that I had a hard time. I still hadn't forgiven her for, I believe, murdering Michael Clark Duncan. But we don't have proof of that. We don't have proof at Muddied Waters Media that that Omarosa killed her.
Right now, but I'm going to need to hear that entire theory because I did not go into any of that.
So Michael Clark Duncan, he's the guy from the Green Mile. The guy that was being executed. Right. A less sensitive person would say the black guy, but I would never do that. He was the prisoner with a heart of gold, and he had magic powers. Where I saw that movie.
In the mouth of gnats.
What's that?
You had the mouth of gnats.
Was that in the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was really, really high when I watched that. I just remember he had powers, and that kept my attention. But
by opening his mouth, and gnats would come out and take him and go back into his mouth.
Oh, see, I don't remember any of that.
Gnats. It may have been flies. I don't know.
Anyway, it was also in Talladega Nights, which is his seminal performance. And don't you put that evil on me?
But that's me.
What's that?
I always liked him in Armageddon.
Oh yeah, he was in Armageddon too. That was another great performance. But the "Don't You Put That Evil on Me," Ricky Bobby, was when he secured himself as one of the most beloved people in my life. And when he marries, seems like a very healthy guy, big, buff, healthy guy. And he marries Omarosa, dies almost immediately. And I'm sorry, but I just, I have no evidence.
Courtney loved him.
What's that?
Courtney loved him.
Yeah. So we'll say that. But she.
No, and that could mean loving him unconditionally until the end.
You don't know what we mean.
Depends on which viewpoint you want to take.
We could be very pro Courtney Love here. You have no idea. But he died of a heart attack. I believe the official story was. But I don't know. She seems very. I just think. I don't know. It just feels like I think that Mariah Carey gave Nick Cannon lupus, and I think that Omarosa killed Michael Clark Duncan. I don't care who's upset about that. I feel more strongly about that than any of the stuff we've said about Scientology or pedophilia. And I'll tell you something. This is how strongly I feel about Nick Cannon and Michael Clark Duncan specifically.
I see that.
Yeah, I know. I'm very big with them. Anyway, but now she's essentially an anarchist superhero. She's possibly releasing, top classified, sensitive state secrets to the general public, not to help the nation, quote unquote, or the American people, but to sell books, which in my mind is the most anarcho-capitalist reason ever to release anything. I would like Edward Snowden more only if he had released that and then like put out a movie or something, and made a bunch of money, and then like made like a music video with all of his winnings or something. Then he would reach peak anarcho-capitalism with me. So another thing that happened, which kind of got buried with DogGate, which, a lesser person might think that Trump times these things to make you talk about things that ultimately don't really affect us personally, so that he can do things that do affect us personally and we don't talk about them. He signs the National Defense Authorization Act.
Oh my God, the John McCain bill.
The John McCain bill. And there's almost no mention of it. And what little mention there is of the fact that bastard Trump didn't mention John McCain when he signed it.
Okay, CNN went on. I was at an airport after his speech.
Right.
I was watching CNN because I didn't have a choice.
Because you're at the airport, right? Yeah, exactly.
And they went on for an hour and a half about how he did not thank John McCain.
John McCain!
And I was sitting there watching the whole hour and a half because my flight was delayed.
Right.
And I'm like thinking about it. And I said, who thought he was going to thank John McCain?
John McCain. He hates John McCain.
And the things I'm more worried about are like, the Fourth Amendment violations, which obviously anybody who's watched this entire show knows I care deeply about. And the fact that we are paying for Saudi planes to get gas, according to this bill.
During their absolutely brutal bombing campaign against the Yemenis.
Against Yemen. Yeah. While they're attacking Yemen. And we're like, oh, we're not taking sides in this, but here's
some money.
Yeah, here's some money, Saudi Arabia, so you can gas up your planes.
After just finding out that they've been bombing hospitals and kind of indiscriminately bombing targets, right. We're staying out of this, and we fully expect them to investigate this impartially. Also, here's money. So that you can continue what we are sure is a judicious and surgical precision strike against whatever the hell they're attacking in Yemen.
Right, going after the people of Yemen for whatever reason that is.
Yemen, because that's a dangerous place.
Yeah. The last time that I had Rand Paul in my car, we were
not to name drop or anything.
Let me pick that up. All right, I had to get that name. But last time I had Rand in my car, we started talking about the Supreme Court nomination of
as one would,
right? Because I figured he might have some insight for
being
me.
Rand Paul.
Right. And somehow we got onto Yemen. That dude cares about Yemen.
Oh, really?
He knows so much about Yemen that I sat in silence for quite some time and then went home and Googled Yemen. I knew. What's Aleppo? I at least knew what Yemen was. I knew it was a country. I had no idea about anything else going on there.
You're like, yeah, I really care about that too, Rand Paul.
And he just went on and on and on about it. So I Googled it and I read up on Yemen for like 6 hours. And then I saw him 2 days after that and he continued talking about Yemen. And I was like, yeah, I know.
I know Yemen, yeah. Let me tell you, I have some opinions about Yemen too that are really original.
Yeah, they probably don't sound anything like yours.
Yeah, they're totally different. I came to them completely by myself, by the way. No way I was stalking your YouTube and reading Wikipedia articles about Yemen. Their chief export is,
the population of roughly 12 million.
I think the most interesting thing about Yemen is their bicameral legislature and the fact that their, average lifespan is 72. So, yeah.
But yeah, that dude cares about Yemen so much.
Specifically with what's going on there, or just in general cares a lot about Yemen?
What's going on there with Saudi Arabia attacking them, and then us being like, oh, we're not going to do anything, but then we're like funding
the whole thing. And it's not, like people get upset about, and I certainly wouldn't. I'm a big friend of Israel, of course. But there's some criticism of the U.S.-Israel relationship and some of the things that happen there. The one thing that they can say, and there's some dispute over that, is that these are the Israeli side, or pro-Israel, pro-Hasbara side, would say that these are defensive actions or preemptive actions. Saudi Arabia is just bombing the shit out of Yemen. Like, it doesn't seem like there's any, like, it's they're trying to keep a certain regime in power and attack the Houthi rebels or however that, whatever that is. And by the way, I didn't just Google this right before. But I know just basics about it. But it doesn't seem like there's any real defensive thing that they're basically nation building. Like, they're America Junior right now, nation building a country next to them. And it's like, and so now we've gone peak neocon here, where we don't nation build anymore. We fund foreign nation building.
We go fund me.
We go fund me. We're the Kickstarter for.
Yeah, we're the Kickstarter for nation building of other nations.
We are the 3D printer, and Saudi Arabia's defense distributor. Or no, we're defense distributor. We have the CAD file.
They're following our pattern. They're
following our CAD. Yes, the Neocon CAD file. We need to be making. So we need to start making clips where we essentially claim ownership of these terms, like Neocon CAD file, which, by the way, is mine. But so just some
RTF.
What's that?
That RTF.
The RTF. Neocon is freespeech.com. By the way, I want to say something, and I want to take total credit here.
Okay.
I posted the actual links to each of the codes before Facebook deleted it. Yeah, before they made it where you couldn't do it. I'm the one that posted it, and I know that I was where it started because everyone used the emoji of the no symbol, the footstep symbol, and the snake symbol. That was me.
Oh.
That was Spike Cohen did that.
That was Spike Cohen. Spike Cohen started getting people kicked off Facebook.
Hundreds of people.
So many of my friends I have not been able to communicate with for last week, oddly enough. I actually copied that, and I went to go hit paste, and I went, no.
So basically what they did was they just
texts to people and send it out.
Here, you send this. So
like, I'm not putting that on Facebook. You can.
You do it. You know what? This would be perfect for you to do. So I did it. It got deleted.
I'm a public figure.
What's that?
I can't do it. I'm a public figure.
I know. I have a name to uphold. I'm a pillar of this community. This whole thing falls apart if I get banned from Facebook. So I posted it. It gets deleted. I see it gets deleted from other people, but not before a lot of people shared it. And I think it also might have possibly gotten some people banned, where maybe they were already on somewhat thin ice, and finally it was like, okay, but now you're sharing. Like, there was a federal injunction. What are you doing? But again, it was against Defense Distribute. No one told me not to share a link to a CAD file.
Right. I mean, it's totally fine.
And then they deleted it. So prove it, schmuck. And what I'm saying now is free speech. So you don't even know if I might be lying. I am lying, actually.
Code is freespeech.com.
Yeah, exactly. Emoji, freespeech.com. But some of the details of this damn bill that they won't even talk about, $717 billion, cheap one-time price, continues the endless war in Afghanistan. What's that?
Yeah, I'm certain that won't get renewed ever.
There's no way. That's austerity there. Continues the endless war in Afghanistan. It continues the warrantless wiretapping and seizure of American citizens with little or no explanation and pretty much
evidence or oversight.
Yeah, evidence or oversight. They are taking the weasel wording in the habeas corpus clause of saying if in cases of war where conditions may warrant it, and they're pulling a total Abraham Lincoln and just seizing people for no reason, which is always fun.
Right. I always love it when somebody like brings up something Abraham Lincoln did. I'm like, Like, yay, you just decided not to go with the fray with everybody and be like, yes,
Oh
Abraham
no,
Lincoln.
total scumbag.
Yeah,
Do you have an Abraham Lincoln tattoo, by the way? I just
I don't know.
okay.
I was like, so yeah, I got Jefferson here, and then I was like, I need to figure out who I'm going to get here, and then who I'm going to get here. And someone said, oh, Lincoln, and I went, fuck no.
No.
Sorry, I know we don't curse on the show, my bad. So no.
I cursed earlier. Don't worry about it.
Okay, hard no. I'm never.
Gosh darn it.
On my body.
Diddly no. But yeah, no, I mean, Lincoln, I'm glad that the slaves are freed, but that had nothing to do with it. We will have an episode on that where I will find the most angry Confederate that I can find, and possibly just in Walmart, and bring them on the show and give them some talking points and just let them go to town. Because yes, the Confederacy seceded to preserve the institution of slavery. Lincoln didn't give a crap about slavery to the extent that that wasn't why he went to war, and in the process of prosecuting that war, did some really fun stuff to people who were just saying, hey, maybe we don't need to go to a war over this. Maybe we can use some legislation and negotiation to end slavery. And also, where were you during the abolition movement? And why are you locking me up? Where's my lawyer? And so a lot of fun with Lincoln. Not a Lincoln fan, but
the FDR internment camps.
FDR internment camp. So I mean, this is not without precedent. And
right. He was like, "Well, Lincoln did it, and he saved the Union."
Big hero, of course, to the progressives. And so so that's. It's not without precedent. Again, this is my anarchist talking. It is constitutional. The Constitution says if the government decides that in times of war, insurrection, or if conditions may require it, I forget the exact wording, they can do this kind of stuff. No habeas corpus. So, but they're doing it, and it sucks.
That's why if you look back on it, the worst president we ever had is George Washington.
You said it, not me.
No, that's fine.
I'm Jewish, so I don't have any tattoos. So
George Washington did things without Congress, and he was like, "Okay, yeah, we're just going to do this once," but the precedent was already there. And then
I totally mean it. Just this one time, just me.
Yeah, so he started that ball a rolling.
Well, again, if you watch the first episode, we got into the whole Articles of Confederation. That was actual limited government. But anyway, right.
I did watch the first episode. It was fantastic. If anybody here hasn't seen the first episode, it's about 2 hours and 20 minutes.
And followed by the second episode, which is 2 hours and 40 minutes, solely because the second guest, Paul Gordon, has this ongoing friendly feud with Lou Sander and was like, if you're going 2 hours and 9 minutes of talking, I'm going 2 hours and 10 minutes. And so those are my two longest episodes, and ever since then, I've tried to pare it down, which I'm doing an excellent job at, by the way.
It's like we're approaching 2 hours.
Paul, I can tell you something. You will make an enemy in Paul Gordon if we go. So I might cut you off if we start to approach his, because he's not someone you want on your bad side. But just I'm
friends with like 3 of his Facebook accounts though, so I assume that we're like besties now.
Oh, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's like 12 of them. There's so many Paul Gordons. There's an army of Paul Gordons, and they
gets banned so often.
I don't know. I presume it's because he's banned often. He also has a bunch of different shows that he does. There's a lot going on with Paul Gordon. Paul Gordon is a very complex, beautiful human being, and I honestly don't know. I presume that it has something to do with getting banned a lot, though. I only have the 2 accounts, the Spike Cohen and I'm not going to say it, but the one when Spike Cohen gets banned, and so then you have this angry-looking person commenting on your posts afterwards. Yeah. So one other thing before we pivot into anti-communism. Peter Strrrznak. Good old Peter. Was an FBI agent. He was in charge of the Trump investigation, and then it was revealed that he didn't like Trump and also had an affair. Which, God, if there's one thing Trump can't stand, it's an unfaithful man. So he was fired. And I don't know the details of whether his firing was justified, nor do I really care. There is one less government employee today than there was yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
So good. Fire the next one too. So that's my thing. But so this is a man. He's raised over $400,000 on GoFundMe. His goal is $500,000. It was originally $200,000. I think 200 or 250, and he keeps raising it. And okay, so he didn't die. He's okay. worked in the FBI for over 20 years. I don't know if he's lost his pension or how that works, but he definitely made good FBI money. He was a lead investigator. Man, I assume has some money. You know damn well, or gosh darn well, that he has some sweet book and media deals coming. This man is not going to want for money.
No.
I presume this man is going to be a millionaire for as long as he wants to be.
Strrrznak or Strrrznak or whatever. Yeah, that guy and his back and forth with. Oh, I'm so blanking on this guy's name because I know we're going to talk about
Trey Gowdy.
Thank you, Trey Gowdy.
Yeah.
Hey, that was a fiery back and forth.
Yeah.
Man, that was fun to watch.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That was so great to watch. But then the screen caps that people took of Strrrznak.
Oh, of his face.
Of his face where he
yeah. Oh my gosh, what a smug.
Everybody. Like, he looked so smug and so sociopathic, and I was like, man, that guy's gonna kill all of us.
I was like, you know what? When I watched that, between his smugness and the arguing back and forth on the parliamentary protocol of whether he had to answer specific questions or not, and whether the FBI's order to him not to respond to certain things trumped the congressional order for him to respond to things. I'm like, if anyone still thinks the rule of law is a thing, just watch this, because this is it's just people in power jockeying for who's in more power. You know, again,
who knows the law better and who has more power? Who
has more power really is what it comes down to. And yes, there's obviously at least the veneer of what the law says, but I mean, it was going to happen, whatever.
But it's also it's a hubris thing of, oh, I know the law better than you.
Nope, it was pure.
Nope,
I mean,
I know it better than you. Nope, I know it better than you.
The whole thing, if they could have just started, peeing and measuring it, that probably would have gone faster than what they were doing. But watching that, I'm like, man, I love watching C-SPAN. I'm like the anarchist that loves watching C-SPAN.
I mean, next to the Facebook congressional hearing, which I watched all 6 hours of that bitch. I watched every second of that one.
Explaining how the internet works to congressmen.
It was a train wreck. You couldn't turn away. And just watching Zuckerberg sit there just so proper and just like he's got a stick all the way up that ass and just blinking weirdly and
I am a human. I blink
weirdly and snarky answers that were hilarious.
It was amazing.
Monotone, and I was like, I can't stop watching this. It was like an art film.
Well, it was the blinking and the breathing. I am a human. I breathe, and I do blink as well because I have to, since I'm a human and not a lizard. By the way, we're not against lizard. But watching all that was hilarious. But my thing is, okay, so this guy's going to be rich. He's going to want for nothing. This man's going to be wealthy and famous. We're all going to know how to pronounce his name correctly soon, if we don't already. I don't. And Strrrznak.
I think it's Stroke.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh, I want the Z to be in there hard. Like
throw in that hard Z.
Strrrznak. Anyway, so he's going to be fine. People gave this wealthy and soon to be much wealthier man money just because they hate Trump so much. They gave him. I mean, I saw they were donating $100, $250. I will assume that a lot of these people are wondering how to make ends meet, and they're like, "But gosh darn it, I have to give $50 to Peter Strrrznak and Strrrznak." And yeah, and I know he's rich because I don't think anyone were like, "Oh, I was gonna pay his mortgage." Like, I mean, he's gonna be fine. Like, he will be fine. And he's going to have a job on CNN by the end of the week. He's going to have a freaking book deal. He'll be in the next Michael Moore. The man is fine. He will be fine. Yeah. His mortgage will be paid.
That guy does not have to worry about money
ever again.
If you want evidence of that, Monica Lewinsky, I don't believe has done much.
It's still fine.
Has a handbag line.
She's still rich. Like, I mean, he will be fine. But this was, I think, really kind of a peak virtue signaling thing. Like, people share, like, I gave money to Peter Strrrznak. And, like, okay, and you should too, because, like, totally we're resisting. And I'm like, you just gave money to a government official, an FBI. The left is giving money to FBI agents because they hate Trump.
Resisting.
Because they're resisting the government. The ultimate show. You punch a trash can, and then you give money to an FBI agent who was fired for corruption, because clearly that's the progressive.
That's the answer.
That's how you're gonna do it. It's the underpants gnomes version of resisting. Is you punch a trash can, give money to FBI agents, profit or resist.
Step 2.
That you profit. Okay, so I want to talk about, before I let you go, because we have a very short show we've had here tonight. Thank you for coming on, though. By the way, I'm so happy.
No, I have enjoyed the crap out of it.
This is going to be good. We're going to have a Matt Wright minute every week, where you come on for literally 60 seconds, just blow it out, and then we'll let you go. So I don't know how closely you've been following this, but I love, if there's something I like more than C-SPAN, it is Libertarian Party hijinks and shenanigans. And the whole, the palace intrigue of this party that is going to win an election any day now. And
at some point ever, they will win a major election.
It's going to happen. I believe it. And I love them. I love libertarians of all kinds, including big L libertarians, capital libertarians. So the Libertarian National Committee, LNC, led by, well, the LNC isn't led by Caryn Ann Harlos, another person I love very much. Caryn, if you're watching, Caryn Ann, if you're watching this. She has led a push to pass a resolution against socialism, which apparently is something that has to be done in the Libertarian Party.
Shocker.
What's that?
That's not surprising even a little bit.
The Libertarian Party is chock full of socialists, apparently.
Yeah, the Libertarian Socialist Caucus.
They have a caucus.
Yeah, they have a caucus.
And they have quite a showing in the Audacious Caucus.
Oh my God, those guys.
The Audacious, what Matt would call the Electability Caucus, the messaging. Look, I'm an anarchist. I have some very strong opinions about the military, about the police. Kind of hard for me to mask my messaging when it comes to the police, not individual police, but the actual institution of law enforcement. I have some very strong opinions. Even I, who have zero interest in anyone ever getting elected ever again, understand that there is such a thing as understanding that someone isn't already where you are messaging wise. Their Overton window could be in a completely different part of the room, and you maybe need to red pill them a bit before you'd start dropping the bombs about the police or murderers and your 14-year-old kid, maybe a couple of steps.
We do not condone pedophilia.
We do not condone pedophilia ever. And we don't condone messaging that is presumably anyway. So Audacious Caucus. So anyway, so this resolution, I actually got the wording, which is why we're late on the show, by the way, because I wanted to get the wording. So this is the wording, and I love it. Therefore, be it resolved that socialist and communist property ownership schemes, including the collectivization of property, unlawful usurpation, usurpation? It's usurp, but if you usurpate, that's usurpation? Usurpation. Usurping of property and incorrect characterizations of private property, unless otherwise voluntarily agreed by all parties, are incompatible with the philosophy of the Libertarian Party. Now, for those who have completely glazed over as I'm reading this because they're not as big of a nerd as I am, Matt and I are going to explain what that means to you.
She is straight up going after the rent is theft.
So this is the backstory here is that libertarianism, or at least the libertarianism of the Libertarian Party, and what is modernly how far back do I go? The term libertarianism was actually originally coined by so-called libertarian socialists. Okay, but they abandoned it, and we homesteaded it, and they say there's no such thing as private property, so screw them. Now it's ours. So. Right. So screw you. And don't try to rent it to us either. So we believe in private property. We believe that we have self-ownership, and that when we combine our labor with the resources that we with our efforts, combine our bodies with our labor. We can create commodities. We can use those commodities to compile them and as our personal property. We can use it to secure land as private property. That all of those things come from self-ownership. Socialism believes that all things should be owned essentially by a collective, seize the means of production, they say. And I'm giving a very crash course on the differences between private property and socialism. But essentially, the communists, socialists, whatever you want to call them, they want to squat on stuff that has been developed by other people because they have a right, apparently, to do whatever they want. That's their version of libertarianism. And that's not what I would call it. It's never worked. Every time that the concept of forced collectivization of ownership of property has been tried, it leads to massive famine and death, because why the hell would anyone do anything extra if they know that everyone is going to equally get access to it regardless of what you put into it? So it's a race to the bottom. I could go and I will have several episodes, which I've already had some, but I will go on and on as to why socialism. But let's just all go from the assumption here that socialism is bad just because Matt and I are saying so. And then move and then
so therefore it is word.
Yeah, it is word. It has been spoken, and it has, and so it has been said. So she's going after the socialists within the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party, it was founded on private property rights, self-ownership, the non-aggression principle, the NAP. Do not violate the NAP ever. No NAP.
Violate the NAP.
Ever violate the NAP.
Possibly violate the NAP, because then they'll say you're violating the NAP and they'll come after you.
You were violating the NAP. So
but
you know,
it was a good nap. I mean, I understand you don't want to violate.
If someone violates my NAP, I'm ruined for the rest of the day. So I won't even get into that. Yeah, no, do not ruin my NAP. But the Libertarian Party, the actual Libertarian Party, was founded on capitalism, private property rights, free market economics, if you don't like the term capitalism, whatever. And so the socialists have come in and said, basically they're squatting again, surprise, surprise. Hey, you made this thing, we want to squat here and also not get elected to anything. I didn't say that. But you know, we want to also use your resources as our own, because you can't just own stuff, man. And so she put out this thing, and so the original messaging of libertarian socialists was basically, we're not trying to take over your party. We're not coming after your toothbrush. You know, like, you can have your toothbrush, man. And we're not coming after your party. Well, so she passes this resolution, which essentially is saying, this is what our party believes, always has believed, and therefore we are against socialism. And they are losing it. They are on every one of her posts. Anyone that agrees with her, they're doing their doxing again. You know, I'm sure.
Is the Audacious Caucus doxing people again?
Yeah, can you believe it? And you know, who knows? I mean, again, I don't. Maybe they'll come after me. I'm an open book, and also have no political aspirations. So okay, great. Everyone thinks I'm a scumbag. That's fine. But what do you want to know? But so you're a libertarian. You're not affiliated with a party.
Right.
What does this like? Okay, so what does this look like to you? First of all, how much do you think this might actually pass, and there will be an actual effort to purge, for lack of a better word, or at least make them know that their ideology isn't welcome, socialists within the party? So,
with the Libertarian Socialist Caucus and the Libertarian Audacious Caucus, which the Audacious Caucus, I think they just enjoy being a headache more than anything else. They at the 2016 National Convention, one of the heads of the Audacious Caucus, I don't know if he's the head of he's a member of the Audacious Caucus.
James Weeks, yeah.
James Weeks, yeah. He stripped down, and during the Libertarians' prime moment, like, you've got the two most unlikable candidates,
hated candidates ever, yeah,
history, going head to head, and it's like, this is the moment. This is a chance. Granted, you're probably not going to win, but you could.
But to get your name out there and be taken seriously, yeah.
You could get the number, and during this moment, the Eminem moment. One opportunity, one shot. Would you seize it? Would you capture it? Or just let it, you James Weeks it and you strip down on stage.
Mom spaghetti.
Yeah, mom spaghetti just all over the place. And the Audacious Caucus and the Socialist Caucus have slowly been coming in and working their way into the Libertarian Party. I think that they kind of started as a counter protest to the alt-right that was coming in.
Right.
So I think that they were like, oh no, you're trying to take over the Libertarian Party? We're going to try to take over the Libertarian Party.
Communism.
Right. And they just slowly started, both of them were fighting, and then a lot of the alt-right was like, oh, well, screw this.
Yeah, I know. The alt-right was like, never mind. Like, so in that way, I guess it kind of worked because they were like, well, we're not interested anymore.
And then it's just like, oh, okay, well, the alt-right left. And
we don't want to be around a bunch of commies.
Yeah, no, if you guys got commies in here, that's just
We're done. We're done here, yeah.
We thought we could get you, but then commies showed up, and now we're just done.
I have to sympathize with them on that.
Right. I do too. I mean, I left. But so they've been slowly working their way in. And they had that guy run for chair.
Matt I'm not sure. Matt K.
Yeah, that guy. He ran for chair, and that was just an embarrassment. He looked like you would think a socialist caucus member would look like.
And he said when he got up there, he's like, I'm not running. I watched that, again, huge nerd. I watched the entire chair and vice chair debate. And he said, I think in his opening statement, or they asked, why should you be elected? And he's like, I shouldn't. I'm barely making ends meet. I got a small business and, we're just trying to stay afloat and you shouldn't vote for me. His entire reason to be up there was to harpoon or torpedo Josh Smith running against Nick Sarwark, basically.
Right. Yeah. And like Nick Sarwark and I don't get along, and we never have. Shocker. Because I think that when it all started over something really petty, and I understand that, and it was petty on my side. But when you tell me, and I'm doing like the sound at an event, and you say one last thing, and I've been at this event for 48 hours on like 4 hours sleep, and all I want to do is die.
Right.
And you're like, one last thing, and then you say that thing. If you follow that with one last thing, I want to kill you. And when you do it 4 times in a row, I just say, I'm never going to vote for you.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, because you've lied to me now 4 times. But that's where my dislike of Nick Sarwark started.
So it's a personal thing.
A personal thing for me. And he doesn't understand that, nor does he probably remember that day.
Right.
But I do, because I fell asleep driving back.
It was a dangerous moment for you, yeah.
He was. But he kind of, in his attempt to keep the alt-right out, he opened the door for the socialists to come in.
Right.
And he opened it to the libertarian left and like, oh, well, let's try to appease the Bernie people, and then started bringing those people over who were like, yeah, we're against the federal government doing things like bombing other countries and telling us we can't do drugs and, stuff like that. And while we're at it, how about we just outlaw private property? And that was where I was like, whoa, what?
Outlaw private property and use violence, which again, when you outlaw something, use violence to enforce it.
Right.
Use violence to seize people's properties. I'm like, the most libertarian policy ever, of course, to steal stuff from people under the force of basically worldwide universal eminent domain.
Violate the NAP to forcibly take away somebody's private property. I mean, that goes against pretty much every libertarian concept. And the Socialist Caucus, which was the only caucus to not clean up their table after the latest convention, by the way, which I thought was hilarious. I was like, well, you guys are living up to it, so good on you.
Yeah, you're demonstrating that your collective ownership is going to work perfectly,
right?
For husbandry of property.
That ain't my job.
Yeah, exactly. That's not my job. I get what I'm getting anyway. I mean, the perfect example of what happened.
And if you're volunteering for any libertarian caucus, you're getting nothing. So why would you put any work into it? But the libertarian, like all the libertarian caucus, like the Libertarian Socialist Caucus, just continued to try to infiltrate in, and Nick Sarwark just kept welcoming him in and bring him in further and further and further, up to the point where now you've got Caryn putting this out, which is that was the first time I heard it. You told me about it.
Caryn Ann.
Caryn Ann.
It's a point of contention for her. So.
My bad. Caryn Ann.
That's okay.
Good. Don't worry, Caryn. If I was still a part of the party, I went pink.
I'm behind her. What she is doing right now, I am behind 100%.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of hers anyway. There are some people that
for years.
Yeah, she's one of those. I've only known her for about a year or so, but there are those people where it's like, man, I don't know if I disagree with them on anything, and then I'll find something that I do. I don't know what, if anything, I disagree with her on a political level or on a, if I were in her shoes, what would I do level. Would not dye my hair pink, I guess is probably. But you know what I would? I probably would.
Man, I don't think
if I'm a woman and I'm in the Libertarian Party, do I dye my hair hot pink and wear a Statue of Liberty tiara thing? Maybe.
I mean, I don't think I could, man. I don't think that would be a good color for my complexion.
Oh no, I'd look terrible. But what I mean is, well, if I were a woman, I'd be horrified. But there's a lot of things that would happen first, like have a massive nervous breakdown. But but I like what happened?
What?
Like but yeah. So no, I really support what she's doing, and I don't have socialism speaks for itself on why it's a bad ideology. To me, it's not a personal thing. I know people who are, call themselves socialists, and really, if you drill down with them, they're not socialists. They just like some of the stuff Bernie said about free stuff.
Right, when you get the healthcare and the free schooling,
which again, that's more of a welfare state than actual socialism. It's just the state. I mean, there's an aspect of socialism there, but it's when someone is an ideological socialist, when they know what Marxism, socialism, Jacobism is, when they know what these things are, they know what they are at their core, they know philosophically what it is, they know how these things have resulted, how the attempt to create a Marxist anarchist utopia always ends in massive state socialism and the genocide and famine and everything that comes with it. And you still support it because how dare someone own something that they developed or that someone who developed gave to them. It's we jokingly, communists aren't people. I'm having a hard time finding common ground. Anyway, I don't get it, but I fully support. I fully support what she's doing.
The only thing that I can really see myself agreeing with communists on, and there's one thing. The only thing I can see me agreeing with communists on is that we both like food. I just have the benefit of getting it.
Yeah, and most communist leaders have a penchant for killing millions of communists. So
that's actually a really good point.
Say what you want about Stalin, or I guess Mao, but that man killed more communists than anyone
Was it
else.
Mao? I thought Stalin did 100 million and Mao did 85.
Say what you want about Stalin and Mao.
It's a lot.
Together.
It's a lot of communists gone.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's about 250,000 fewer communists, thanks to the efforts of those two. That's like what I say about, and I make sure to do this like in very large Jewish gatherings. I say, hey, you know what? Say what you want about Hitler. The man killed Hitler, and that's met with mixed reactions, believe it or not. Some people support that and see the humor in that, and some people didn't get past me saying, say what you want about Hitler, which is really their fault. But anyway, so yeah,
Hitler's great enemy is still himself.
If nothing else, everyone has, what is it, broken clock. Hitler's clock was right that one time. He also made the Autobahn, I believe, which is nice. I like the idea of
Fanta and Volkswagen.
He came up with Fanta?
Yeah. Okay. So during World War II, Coke in America could not distribute over to Germany
because the embargo. Yeah.
Right. But the Coke products and like the Coke factories had to start making something. So they started making Fanta.
Fanta started as a Nazi alternative in Coke factories in Germany.
Yep.
Say what you want about Hitler. I actually kind of like Fanta, so
I
that's
love Fanta. Like I drink there's orange soda all the time. I love it.
and that's funny because it's now become like the Latin American, like you see Fanta, Fanta, and like at least here anyway, you see and the large bosomed Hispanic ladies of Latina origin dancing around. Yeah, I want to Fanta, and that was Hitler. So
Yeah.
So you
Hugo
know what?
Hugo Boss also. Thank Hitler.
You know, I'm. Are we red pilling ourselves? Is this how this happens? Is
Hugo
it?
Boss was a failed designer up until the Third Reich.
Is this how it starts? You know, I do like Fanta, and the Autobahn, man. Because I mean, again,
Volkswagen cars.
oh my gosh, he made the Beetle, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I mean, say what you will about Hitler. A lot of good things came out of a lot of more bad things, much more bad things.
Much more bad things.
Much more bad things.
At Muddied Waters, we'd like to take a moment to clarify a few things. Really, just the one thing.
The Holocaust, awful.
Holocaust bad.
Bad.
Unequivocally, I personally, and I I hope to God I speak on behalf of Matt, that we unequivocally condemn the Holocaust.
We
And
100%.
and anything even like it. We do not dispute the 6 million number. I think it was actually 5.8. But that's not a dispute. That's just a clarification.
Right. And 6. I'm good with the rounding to 6.
I'm fine with rounding to 6 because it sounds powerful.
It does.
And
it sounds a lot better than 5.8.
if it stops even one genocide to round it up to 6, I'm fine with that. And also, and several more million that were killed, and we're against that. I would like to talk briefly about the Autobahn. There's nothing more libertarian when it comes to a road, which we hate, than a road with no speed limit.
Yeah.
So we got to give that to. We got to give that to
the right.
to that guy, to the far right. So, okay, good. So we've ended on a good note.
We ended up talking about the benefits of Nazi Germany.
The silver linings, right? So any massive social change brings with it some silver linings, and we here at My Fellow Americans are very large fans of finding the silver linings in life and living actively grateful lives. I'm grateful for the Autobahn and for Fanta. I'm gonna leave it at that. So we
I am craving a Fanta. So
do you know what scares me is that if someone looks at this gigantic video and goes, "I'll just skip to the end," and
I bet that gets them to rewind a bit.
Gets them to do something. So I just want to note that we're against the Holocaust and Hitler and
the Holocaust and
the war, really the whole invading Poland for no reason. There's really just a lot of bad things to unpack about Hitler, and frankly, I'm a little insulted that someone might think that I'm not against Hitler.
Right.
Let me put it back on them. How dare you?
How dare you think
America?
Hitler.
How dare you?
I understand.
Public.
Don't bring up my words.
Don't you dare use my own words against me, schmuck. Okay? How dare you? I am literally Jewish and therefore immune to criticism in this. Pull that card now? Yeah, I'm gonna pull that card. How dare you accuse a Jew of being in favor of Hitler? Jerk. Oh, good. So now we've ended on a good note. Before I let you go, Matt, again, thank you so much for joining the show tonight. We're definitely going to be way more popular after this. And so thank you again. I just want to, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share before we have to explain to my wife why I was talking about Hitler for so much?
Real quick, a new episode of The Writer's Block comes out tomorrow with Matt Delicio. It's great. We talk about politics all for 30 seconds, somewhere in the middle, and the rest of it's
just all music after that.
It's everything on either side of that is us talking about our favorite bands from the 60s and 70s. And then on Tuesday, the Muddied Waters of Freedom is going to be having a very special episode. A very, very special episode on Tuesday, the 21st, I believe.
I will be tuning in. That is quite a teaser there. Very special episode.
Special episode. Like, you know, the episode of Mr. Belvedere where the kid had AIDS, kind of special.
Good stuff. Very
it's a real episode, by the
on
way.
a very special Blossom. Nice. No one has AIDS, by the way. I just want to.
I mean, I don't know. I don't test.
Yeah, let me. Yeah, as far as everyone seems to have some good T cell action going. I actually have overactive T cells, which is why I I have the opposite. I have negative AIDS.
Right.
So my immune system is really active and hates my brain for some reason. Yeah. So okay, good. So your next episode's tomorrow, and these are all, by the way, on the same channel that you're watching now, on the same page.
All of them are on MW Media, Muddied Waters Media,
Muddied
which you
Waters
can find on YouTube
Media.
And if we can get you to sign up for the YouTube, we can start saying youtube.com/MW Media
If for
instead
no
of
other reason,
search for us on YouTube.
Instead of the youtube.com/channel/ like some encrypted code, like let us custom brand for you.
For you, to make
sake.
it easier on you.
Make it easier for you so that you don't have to go
subscribe and then hit the bell, because apparently, according to other podcasts that I watch, hitting subscribe doesn't do anything. But we need you to hit subscribe right now. Worry about the bell later.
Hit subscribe. We'll figure out the bell together.
Right.
It's something with the
we'll
notifications.
The
We'll do an episode about the bell. But the thing is, really, just subscribe to everything. Google Muddied Waters of Freedom and Muddied Waters Media and just sign up. Just sign up. I think we have a Twitter, right? We have a Twitter?
Muddied_Waters.
On the Twitter. Do we have an Instagram?
Muddied Waters of Freedom.
Instagram us, slide in our DMs, and
slide in the DMs. I am on the Instagram all the time. You can slide into those DMs, and I will probably respond at all hours.
Speaking of which, yes. Candace Owens. So
Candace Owens. Yeah, let's talk about Candace.
At the 2 hour and 11-minute mark, let's talk about Candace Owens. Paul Gordon is sweating right now. Let's talk about Candace Owens.
I'm waiting for him to message me and be like, "You better stop."
You jackass! You stop my record. You shut up. We at Muddied Waters Media believe that Matt Wright is uniquely qualified, I'll say, to be. He is ideally. He's the ideal mate for Candace Owens. We believe.
Well, I'm the ideal mate for most people.
People.
Just people.
Anyone.
But I filter my range down quite a bit to
Candace Owens.
And so, quite a bit. Like, out of the 7 billion people, it's down to one.
Candace Owens. And I, as a interracial marriage enthusiast, am a big fan of this pairing for a myriad of reasons, and mostly viewership related. But so we are going to be starting a hashtag campaign, hashtag Mattandace. I think Mattandace is what we Mattandace.
Yeah.
MATTANDACE. I can spell.
And Ace.
Matt and Ace. Mattandace. I've already contacted Candace Owens to let her know about what we're doing.
This.
We tried to get her input on the hashtag and did not hear from her, oddly enough. And
say anything.
Ultimately, I think really the biggest thing is to let her know that just Charlie Kirk is not the right guy for her. I don't have any.
Kirk actually together? I don't even know if that's.
I have no idea. But I just in case, my wife told me yesterday that she's pretty sure that they're going there. But
still. I'm just asking for one date. I'm not asking for
people
lifelong.
make mistakes, people.
Everybody gets a hall pass every once in a while.
I don't even want to go into my past. It's pretty ugly.
I could be your celebrity get out of jail free card.
This could be your moment, Candace. And This is not catcalling, by the way, because we're being very respectful. This is utmost respect.
One dinner, no drinks, because I don't drink, because, addict, as we said earlier. So waters. Maybe a decaf coffee after, because caffeine now keeps me awake because I don't drink.
I think, honestly, I don't see the downside to this for anyone, especially
No.
you. But and here's the other thing, because I want to go back to bashing Charlie Kirk for some reason. So they're at this thing, and the leftists come out and scream F white supremacy to a black woman as a bunch of lily white people, which is, anyway, that was fun. But
Funny.
And what did he do? He just stood there.
He did. He just stood there. And I don't want to bash
bashing Charlie Kirk.
I don't want to bash Charlie Kirk too much, because I actually do kind of like the guy, but I don't agree with him on everything. But as I enjoy watching him interact with people, I find it hilarious.
Right.
Except in that instance, because he allowed himself to have.
This was your moment to shine for what we think might be your woman, Charlie, and frankly, I just Matt would have stopped them.
Matt would have punched an Antifa member in the face.
Would have punched a minimum of one Antifa member, and would have been justified in doing so. So I just want, Candace, you got a long game here. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I would have been defending Candace. I would have been defending the soon-to-be celebrity couple Mattandace, and it would have been completely justified.
And your future child, Mattandace.
Right. Mattandace Wright Owen.
Yes.
I'll hyphen. I don't care. I'm fine with it. Whatever.
This is a new age, right? Like, I mean, Wright Owens. I actually like that.
That's not a bad name.
Matt Wright Owens or Matt Owens Wright. Like, I don't know. So I had a friend that one took their name and then added the other one. So if it was Bob Jones and Sarah Smith, it became Bob Jones Smith and Sarah Smith Jones.
So yeah, I have to remember who did this. Somebody I know took the other person's name as their middle name. And they both did that.
Like their first name?
No, their last name.
Oh.
It was like, I don't remember who did this, so I can't even say names, but it was like, Bob.
If you knew the names, you'd know who you were talking about.
Right, exactly. Bob, like it would be Bob Smith would be the last name, Jones, or middle names, Jones would be the last name, and then she would have been Sharon Smith Jones.
Nice.
The opposite, whichever one I said the first time. But yeah, that's what they did, and I was like, actually, I could get behind.
I like that. I actually really like that a lot. I think. I'm not going to do it because we already have all the legal stuff.
Right.
We're all Coens here. We all Coens, and there's a rabbinical thing there because it's very important. Jewish, by the way.
And while Matt Owens Wright would take Mr. Wright out of my name, which would be very upsetting for obvious reasons, because Mr. Wright.
Well, you're still Mr. Wright because Matt
true.
Owens Wright.
Right, but then I'd be Mo. Which
wow.
I mean, I'm okay with it. It's got kind of
and she'd be C W. Or she'd be cow.
Or cow.
We're gonna work on that, Candace.
We're gonna have to figure that out, Candace. We can talk about it over dinner.
These are brass tacks. This is all brass tack stuff. We can figure this out together. But the point is, Matt is there for you. I am there for you, but in a platonic role. And I'm also there for Matt, also in a platonic role. So all this to say, we're gonna make this work. We're gonna get that date for you, and our ratings are so
skyrocket when I finally get her on my show, and
we'll have Antifa out in front of my house,
right?
Which is I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, no, this is actually gonna be a fun experiment to see if we can actually get Mattandace to
trend to be viral or at least bacterial.
Right.
to be pathogenic in some way.
Right.
So fungal. We'll have it go fungal. Matt, thank you again so much for joining the show today. I had an absolute blast. You have not broken Paul's record, which is probably better for everyone.
That's probably better for everyone. At one point I was thinking I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, I don't need this. Like, I need a stress-free life. And but you were close. You beat Lou's record, so you're in the top. You're in the silver. So thank you again thank you again for joining us. Check out Matt's show. Again, all of this is still on Muddied Waters, the writer's block, Muddied Waters of Freedom. Do not miss any Muddied Waters anything. If it says Muddied and Waters, hit the bell. So Matt, stick around for a second. I'm going to talk to you a bit while we're on the outro. But guys, on behalf of Matt Owens Wright and myself, Spike Cohen, thank you again for joining me on this episode of My Fellow Americans. I will see you next Wednesday, and it will be every bit as much of a blast as this episode was. Have a great week. God bless you. We both love you. Thank you so much.
Imagine knowing all that started off that war was pride and lies. Be a man, hold it in your eyes. Take a look up in the sky and count the doves. I believe it's 23. Every breath is every step that I've been blessed to get to breathe. Rather let you rest in praises as opposed to rest in peace. At the least, that's just me being me. Convoluted as can be. In my future, I can view it so vivid and beautifully. The distances I will leap from the man that I used to be. But now, summer doesn't exist anymore. Best case scenario, I get to finish the tour. Then chill with the gust in August before I march and march again. Dayquil in April, I know how cold this art can get. My head hurting, I must have a lot on my mind. When I got time on my hands, they put hands on my time. It might fit. We might just unite and come together because at least slightly like-minded. Indeed, the life I've lived brings light to kindness. All you need is a sign. Put a cease to the crimes. Put an ease to the minds like mine. Sometimes darkness is all I find. You know what they say about an eye for an eye in a time when the blind lead the blind. Who am I to deny I would cry when a loved one dies? I recognize that body outside, but the holes in the body that was alive. Now confined to a chalk outline. Find out how, but you never know why. It ain't even make it to the news at 9. It ain't even make it to the news at 9. That's my sister, mother, father, brother, son. That's one of mine. All these years I close my eyes, open up to only find I'm in line. There's a pointless murder happening all the time. Either lose your life or mine, caught up in them versus I. That ain't how it started, nah. How were we supposed to survive? There's a war going on outside. Who would want to raise a child? Whom the tomb is flashing by. Now you have to say goodbye when you watch them on the news at 5. Don't tell me how, tell me why.